Correctional Investigator Ivan Zinger released his annual report Thursday, and once again Indigenous people are overrepresented in terms of their numbers in the general population.
2 of the 3 penitentiaries that are over 100 years old are filled with Indigenous people. Over 60 to close to 70% of those penitentiaries are housing Indigenous people.
Although Indigenous people account for only about 5% of the Canadian population, they account for 28% of the prison population, and 39% of prisoners' force was used against during this time period, the highest of any racial minority group. And yet Zinger says corrections has yet to admit a racial bias exists.
In its response, I'm not convinced that the Correctional Service of Canada has either adequately acknowledged or answered compelling evidence of the unique role that race seems to play in how force is applied, how frequently it is used, and against whom.
An official with the John Howard Society says the COVID-19 pandemic may partially explain the rise in violent incidents.
And the whole post-COVID restraints or COVID restraints measures are causing a lot of tensions to rise in the prisons and a lot of mental well-being to decline, which can result in self-injury and it can result in more aggression. I would say that the tolerance level of the correctional service is probably at a low ebb as well.
Zinger's report recommends corrections develop an action plan to address the relationship between use of force and systemic racism. But the correctional investigator has made recommendations before, and they have not been followed. A vice chief with the Congress of Aboriginal People says part of the problem is the correction system itself has no incentive to change.
It seems there's no accountability by Correction Services Canada and where they're at. Like, how have they addressed the recommendations with any of the reports, we'll say, in the last 5 years? Like, where are they at?
In a release statement, CSC says it welcomes the correctional investigator's report and is taking concrete steps to address its recommendations. Fraser Needham, APTN National News, Ottawa.